Best of r/Tales from Tech Support episode 54. I worked for a small startup software company as the sole IT support tech. Because they were small, I had my fair share of odd-end jobs I had to do, because no one else would or could. One day I walk past the IT closet and see a brown stain of liquid coming from underneath the door. Well, I guess this just became an IT problem. Opening the door, I see the wastewater coming up from the floor drain. The network gear was mounted high up, but some other things like spare monitors and other stuff on the floor were in danger of getting wet. I moved everything out of the way. I knew the toilets were connected to the same pipe as that drain, so I ran into the bathrooms to turn off the water source so people wouldn't make it worse than it already was. I call the actual plumber. In the meantime, the water slowly goes down. I put up out of order signs on every water source in the building. Small office. I sent an email to the dev building to let them know that they will have to use the restrooms in the other building across the parking lot. When the plumber gets to the office, I explain what it's doing and where I think it's blocked. He runs a snake and clears the blockage. The plumber informs me to let people know to quit flushing down things like feminine hygiene products and other non-organic things. That's the oddest email I have ever had to send. Edit. This was not the actual email, just a summary. It was so long ago I don't remember exactly what I said. All. Please don't flush non-organic items, as the pipes in the building are not meant to handle it. Thank you, IT. Just another day in IT support, I guess. Thank you. Next. On mobile, so please bear with me. Also, this just happened this morning and I need to vent a bit. Today's cast. Me, management approved tech savvy guy. CW, co-worker, thinks he knows stuff. TL, team led. We are all in one office room. The story. A few weeks ago, I set up a new notebook for TL. Amongst other things, I set it to auto-connect to the office Wi-Fi. Today, TL started rambling about his mouse, which isn't working anymore, and calling CW for help. CW takes a newer mouse from the spare ones we have, goes over to TL's desk and wants to connect the mouse to the Unify receiver by using the old mouse. TL, what are you doing? That thing isn't working. CW, I need to install you new mouse. TL, don't you listen? That stupid thing isn't clicking anymore. CW, but I have to use it to install the new mouse. TL, but it doesn't work. CW, just let me use it. Insert American Chopper meme here. Next thing I hear is, CW, you need that effing software to connect it, but I can't download it. TL, that's because the internet isn't working, like everything in here. That's the moment I look up from the latest posts on r/cableporn. Me, the what? TL, the internet isn't working. Me, are you connected to the Wi-Fi? TL, that's not working and I don't have the password. Resisting the urge to scream. There are way more stories about this office I'm in. I finally stand up and walk over. On the display is the usual Ms. Edge don't have internet screen. CW. See, I can't go to the website to download Setpoint. I took a look. Me, turn the Wi-Fi on. CW. Doesn't work. I go and download it on my computer. Me, now talking to TL. May I? TL grabs his mouse and tries to click. See, it doesn't work. I roll my eyes and use the trackpad to activate the Wi-Fi. It auto connects and I refresh the website. Then I start Setpoint, which already was installed, and connect the new mouse. Me to TL, while giving him his new mouse. Have fun. Thank you. Next. No idea why some people are not able to absorb words on a computer screen, and sometimes it genuinely worries me people like this are still getting paid. I had been tasked with running the Windows 1803 update in my company, which resulted in hundreds of emails back and forth with users. No matter how much specific or bolded lettering, they still asked the same questions right after I had just told them. The prerequisites for this upgrade was that they were in a company office, with power and Ethernet connected to the laptop, and that the hard drive had 25 gigabytes of free space. Sounds easy, right? No. Good God, no. This was basically asking too much of these engineers. One user, however, stood out from the crowd. I emailed him a couple months after the first round of emails letting him know he still needed to complete the upgrade, and I could see all he needed to do was clear some space. Me, Hi end user, I noticed you haven't been able to complete this upgrade yet as your hard drive doesn't have 25 GB free. Please let me know if you need help with this. End user, hi IT, I have tried to run the upgrade but haven't been able to get it completed. Me, yes, I can see the upgrade has failed because you haven't had enough space free. You will need to have 25 GB free. End user, will 23 GB be enough? This hurt my soul. Thank you. Next. One of my engineers working on the Exchange server has a script to delete mailboxes. She decides as it's Monday that she wants to test the script first, so exports the mailbox list to her CSV, copies the CSV to her local computer and edits it down to the list of mailboxes she wants to delete. She then tests the script against the edited CSV and it produces the correct sequence of commands to delete the mailboxes in the CSV. So she copies the script back to the server and runs the script on the original CSV of all the mailboxes. Fortunately she caught her error early enough that she was able to stop it and restore. The first I knew about it was when she came over and went IF&D up. But the team fixed it. Happy I've got a team that will work together and fix it, and B, got engineers who are happy enough with my management to come and tell me. Thank you. Next. Ye Carousel Ride, a comedy of diverse errors. Part 1. TD, LR, OGD not again. Prelude. Another story from Ziz Inc. In fact it's once again that same big contract to fit out ABC Corporation, his new factory. These two tales. I seem to have a lot of WTF experiences from that particular project. Part of the deal for shiny new factory was that in addition to Ziz Inc. having some staff permanently on site, we'd also do the same with spare parts. ABC Corporation had previously managed the parts stores needed to service the PQR Holdings machines themselves, and apparently this had been such a roaring success that they were absolutely desperate to offload the responsibility, with someone else paying the bills of course. Instead, Ziz Inc. would hold a substantial cache of spare parts and consumables on site, which would be released as necessary, and ABC Corporation would be billed for what they used or broke, rather than what they randomly ordered. And if the parts needed weren't promptly available, of course it'd be all Ziz Inc.'s fault. Now, again, you'll see some logic to the basic plan. We made the machines, we supplied all the parts and serviced hundreds of them worldwide, so Ziz Inc. could be expected to have a pretty good idea of what would be needed, both for routine consumption and servicing, and for emergency coverage, for a reasonable definition of emergency, or at least an emergency that had happened by something approaching reasonable means. Act 1. The original factory plan included some offices for Ziz Inc. personnel, tucked away in a corner of the factory floor. Behind these was a modest storeroom that could only be accessed from the offices. Looked reasonable enough. Ziz Inc.'s stores manager spent some time looking at the likely needs of the machines being installed in phase 1, assembled themselves a spreadsheet, and pronounced it should all fit. Oh, and it meant having this 6-figure sum worth of inventory on someone else's site. 20% more room would be nice, but could be lived without, and the only major point was that it'd be good to have double doors on both the offices and the stores, so that it'd be possible to wheel a delivery or service kit right through on a pallet truck and deal with it directly in the stores. That seemed pretty reasonable, so I sent it back to ABC Corporation, as a tactfully worded suggestion. The building being little more than foundations at this point. I also asked stores manager to price up suitable racking etc. on the grounds that ABC Corp were bound to claim that fitting the place out was our job, and I might as well be ahead of the game and costing the inevitable change note. I got a reply back from project manager surprisingly quickly. It obviously isn't in front of me now, but I can summarize it as follows. No, you can't have double doors. Just tip the empty pallet on its side, carry it through the single door, and then reload on the other side. Ziz Inc. would indeed be responsible for stores fit out. ABC Corp would select a contractor on our behalf and bill us in due course. In the current revision to the building plan, there will now be no Ziz Inc. stores or offices at shiny new factory. If we needed anything, we could keep it in ABC Corporation. His stores at shabby old factory, and our staff could hot desk with a typing pool. You may notice some minor conflict between these 3 points alone. I should also comment here that building layout and dimensional changes were endemic on the ABC Corporation project. We prepared for and bid on a building of given dimensions. We won, and signed a contract for different machines to do different things in different sized building. While we were laying out the detail of the production lines, and the long lead time stuff was already ordered, weekly changes to walls, pillars and available headroom were not unknown. Even after the phase 1 production halls were built and being commissioned, it was only then found that project manager had managed to build a warehouse that was entirely different to the one on the plans, longer and thinner, and with the roof at the wrong height. Since it was pretty early example of fully automated warehouse, and the changes, which were more than 10 feet in both horizontal dimensions, were only revealed when the installers actually obtained access, late, to start their work. It meant the ZIS Robotics, the people doing that job, wound up charging ABC Corporation over $500,000 extra just to reconfigure the already built equipment to suit the building. To wind up with a warehouse that had a lower capacity than the plan, because it actually had a smaller overall building volume with more machines in it. Back to the parts stores. I discussed this helpful reply with stores manager, and rather than waste more time at our end, we decided it'd be simplest if I just added stores provision at shiny new factory to the agenda of the next no holds barred project meeting. And while I was there, I could find out what shape and size the building was going to be this week. I duly did so, and while at the meeting, project manager and I played yet another round of the ever popular game contract says I can do anything I want / let's check that shall we? / why have you got that? You're not allowed to see the contract / because I wrote it you MPET. From this we unsurprisingly determined that ZIS Inc. were obliged to keep machine spares at shiny new factory, and ABC Corporation were obliged to provide ZIS Inc. with secure facilities to keep them in. This week's building plan didn't have any space for that. The roller rink was certainly an innovation in the field though, so I left project manager and their actual minions to determine the nature of the secure storage facilities their employer would be providing, which I imagined I would subsequently have grounds to reject and possibly laugh at. A while later I was advised that X area indicated on this week's plans would be used for some shelves ZIS Inc. could keep stuff on. X area was between a couple of support pillars, but otherwise more or less in the middle of nowhere. The secure side of things seemed to be slightly lacking. I asked questions. Yes, the shelving would just be open. Project manager had determined it'd be fastest if people could just take whatever they needed. Yet, that's not happening. I had chat with stores manager in view of the fact that this probably was the only floor space left to actually do the job with. Stores manager had a think and advised that a storage carousel of appropriate dimensions would probably work and fit neatly in the space allotted. We'd just had one added to our own stores and it was working nicely. Anything that wasn't suitable for the carousel could go in a modest lockable steel cupboard next to it. I got an outline price and went back to project manager with the inevitable change order. If you haven't seen one, I should probably tell you what a carousel is. Basically it's a big long, 10-20 feet tall, as high as will fit, usually, big comparatively thin box, which is full of moving shelves. If you get stuck inside one, your experience will probably be more akin to Labyrinth than Hogwarts. The way it works is that at each end there's a couple of massive chain drives with long vertical sections between the gears, and they move in sync. The shelves run between the two chains, and there's a long thin access opening along one side. You type in what you want. The computer determines that that's in, for the sake of argument, bin 12 on shelf 27. You press the go button, and the gears rotate until shelf 27 is lined up next to the access hatch. Then a lamp lights up over bin 12 to tell you where to take stuff from. The operator doesn't need to be able to recognize the parts, just count. You tell the computer how many you've taken, it updates the stock and you either enter your next part number or go off and use what you've got. Loading parts in is obviously essentially the reverse procedure. Even at this point in history, the more sophisticated models had things like shutters to prevent parts being taken when no one was logged in, motion sensors to check that only the selected bin was actually being accessed, and cameras to catch mugshots of anyone breaking the rules. My pricing for ABC Corporation was naturally for a machine that included such mod cons, only the best for project manager and their underlings. Act 2. In due course I got inevitable change order signed off with a decent budget and outline spec to work with. Unfortunately, about this time, my old Allies stores manager was promoted internally, perfectly deserved, and I wished them well, and they were then replaced at Ziz Inc. by new stores manager, who came in from outside rather than being an in-house promotion. I had most of the mechanical machine spec already from my previous work with ex-stores manager, unlike the one in our stores, and in addition to the security mod cons, we were going to need to be able to access this one remotely. Someone from stores could visit intermittently to deal with exceptional jobs or do a 6-month stock check, but in general we wanted to know what was in the carousel at any point so we could ship consignments to ABC Corporation before it ran out and have local staff load them in. When we'd been talking to the rep from Carousels RUs Limited, who'd supplied our own machine, they said they had done that before, but it wasn't built into the standard software, so we'd need to get the machine with custom software, for which they recommended a consultant who also happened to be the original writer of the standard stuff. So we allowed extra in the budget to cover that, and it was built into the overall costs. Next step was therefore going to be a meeting to sort out the spec for this software, which was duly scheduled as is Inc. The Carousels RUs Limited rep came as well, and kindly introduced software consultant, who'd be doing the programming. Once the formalities were over, I ran through the basic requirements. The machine needed to be as buttoned down and physically secure as possible. Access would only be by login/password, which would be issued to both Ziz Inc. and ABC Corporation staff. Transactions and parts usage needed to be cross-referenced by user. The machine would have a phone line and modem, and we needed to be able to use those to log in and read/update the database. The exact reports and access needed to be determined today. Then we moved on to new stores managers part of the meeting. I should mention that prior to this I'd had an in-house only meeting with just new stores manager and I to try and rough out the spec. This hadn't gone quite to plan. I'd explained the job in general, and that we'd have electronic access to this off-site store, specifically with a view to remote managing it as much as possible to avoid sending store staff in unless we needed to. What do you need from the carousel at ABC Corporation? I asked, my pen poised. Obviously I wanted to manage the parts inventory at their site. Pen down. Sigh. That's what we pay you for. I need you tell me what information you need for you to do that, and whether you want to do things like preload it with expected deliveries, so they're checked off again on delivery. Yeah, that. It had been a long meeting, just new stores manager and me. Back to the main event, which also turned out to be a long meeting. Over the course of many hours, we got the software defined, file formats to transfer data to and fro, Boolean flags to define the facilities available to individual $sign user profiles, more Boolean flag to be added to the main database to determine part categories and special handling needs, which routines should handle these flags and how. My notes ran to several pages. Software consultants were longer. New stores manager had an almost entirely blank piece of paper. They didn't appear to have even noted down what stock rotation was when the rest of the meeting had found themselves compelled to explain it. Act 3. A couple of weeks later I received a hefty communication from software consultant, which turned out to be the outline software spec. This mostly took the form of a pseudocode flowchart. I like that. Nice and clear. Unfortunately quite a few of the features discussed, and which I was sure I'd seen written down, and not just in my own handwriting, simply weren't there. Also, and I don't want to seem old-fashioned here, but when the process flow gets to one of those diamond decision boxes, I really like it if there's more than one possible exit, and if something different happens on each path that depends on the decision that was made in the box. I sent the flowchart back with some corrections and amendments, and after toing and froing for another few weeks, was presented with one I was more or less happy with. The actual machine wasn't due to go in for the best part of a year, so at least there was time. A couple of months later, I received a prototype version of the software to break. Sorry, test. I was going to test the software. Yes, that's definitely what it was. This ran on a common or garden wind WSPC, and Carousels RUs had also loaned me a box of electronics to plug into the laptop's parallel port/S that made the right electronic noises and convinced the software it was actually talking to a physical machine that was moving as commanded. I booted it up. The login routines weren't coded yet, so right now I was access all areas. Prompt enter part number. Press enter. Error message. Invalid data in field, blah blah 1. Crunch. I rang software developer to advise them of the need for a fix. Hello, Software Developer Trading Limited. Hi software developer, this is Ojoy from Ziz Inc. Oh good, did you try the software yet? Yep, I was pretending to be a $sign user and I broke it. Oh, can't you just reboot it? Yes, but I don't want the actual site $sign users doing that. Oh, what happened? It took surprisingly little time to state the nature of the software emergency. I left software developer with some subtly worded suggestions, one or two of which might have had something to do with looking at the spec. A few days passed. I received a new software version, plugged in the carousel simulator and set to with a will. Prompt enter part number. Press enter. Message. Please enter number only. Prompt enter part number. Press 1. Press enter. Error message. Invalid data in field, blah blah 1. Crunch. I rang software developer again. I stated the nature of the software emergency. I may also have made some less subtly worded suggestions, and again referred to the spec. Time passed. I received another new version. Hang on kids, here we go. Prompt enter part number. Press enter. Message. Please enter number only. Prompt enter part number. Press 1. Press enter. Message. Invalid part number format. Please check and re-enter. Prompt enter part number. Key in, valid string. Press enter. Message. Part number. Valid string. Available. Prompt enter quantity required. Press enter. Error message. Invalid data in field, blah blah 2. Edisk. FFS. I rang software developer, stated the nature of the software emergency, and went on to make a series of veiled suggestions. In due course, I received another version for testing. Not only were all these, and many more, blindingly obvious, but they were also all things I had previously stated, in writing, that the software would need to be able to cope with. At the first spec meeting and again subsequently. This went on for months. Eventually, however, I got a version that I couldn't break, and that let me, for example, set up different user profiles and then log in as them and have only the access $admin me had granted $particular user. So far so good. It did at least seem to do everything required. Stuff like data transfer could only be tested up to a point, of course. We still had to prove it with an actual remote machine in the vagaries of ABC Corporation. His phone system. At least this one didn't need an ISDN line. As for what happened when it got on site, you'll be needing to read part 2. Thank you. Next. What up TFTS? Long time lurker. First time poster. Been in IT for a few years now. Started in help desk, software support, infrastructure and now cloud. In 2016, back in my help desk days, I got a call from one of our receptionists. This in itself wasn't unusual. They called fairly regularly about one thing or another. This call, however, really stuck out to me. Characters. $me equals me. $rec equals lovely but entirely incapable receptionist. $col equals amused colleague. $me. Good morning IT. $rec. Hi Bob Del for Eva, sorry to bother you, but I just don't know what to do. I opened $soft phone this morning, like I do every morning, and it's opened on the wrong screen. What do I do? $me. Visible confusion. $col. Sniggers at the look on my face. $me. Just bite the bullet. Have you tried just moving it to the other screen? $rec. Oh heavens no. I can't do that. What if I break it? $me. It's okay. Trust me. Just click at the top of the screen. Drag it over to the other screen and let go. $rec. It's not working. I can't do it. You need to come up here and do it for me. Now, in that company, the main office was a stately home, and IT were relegated to the tiny old porter's lodge at the bottom of the drive. Not sure why, but it had its upsides. BBQs in the summer, music as loud as we wanted, and was only a quarter-mile walk up to the main building, although it was uphill. Naturally, my instinct was to argue, I couldn't be bothered walking up that damn hill for that. Luckily for $rec, $Cole had a bunch of jobs up at the office. He was more than happy to drop onto my lap when he realized I had to go up there, so that kind of made it worth it, and I got him back a few days later. Anyway, I made the walk up to her desk. She's all flustered and impatient, demanding to know what took me so long, saying she can't work in these conditions, etc. I gave the screen a once over, and sure enough, the software is open. It's not frozen or erroring, it's just on her left screen. I take her mouse, click the top, drag it over and drop it on the right screen. No muss, no fuss. $rec. Oh, thank you so much. I don't know what I'd do without you guys. You really are so clever. Sometimes I think I'd trade the gratitude for a modicum of user competence, but then I realize I'd price myself out of a job, so I'll take the thanks. TL. Doctor user software opens on wrong screen. I tell her to drag it to right screen. She says she can't. I then walk to her desk and do it for her. It works first time. Thank you. Next. Person, I need help. Me okay, what's going on? Person, my phone doesn't have service, it just started today. My phone has been working fine for 3 weeks. Me okay, let's troubleshoot what's going on. What happened before it stopped having service? Person, I took the SIM card that came in this phone out and put the one from the old phone in. Me okay, the SIM card from the old phone was deactivated when your new phone was activated. Put the new SIM card back in. Person, the new phone didn't come with one. Me, you just said it came with one and you took it out. Person, I only took it out because it said SIM card not found. Me okay, so put the one you took out back in. Person, I didn't take a new one out. Should there be a new one in a box somewhere? Me, no, it should have been in the phone. You would have had to have taken it out of the new phone to replace it with the SIM card from the old phone. Person, okay fine, there may have been one in the phone. Someone else told me it wasn't there. Me okay, put that one back in the phone. Person, so put the old one in and throw the new one, which is now an old one, away. Me, no, put the SIM card that came with the phone in. Then turn the phone on and try to make a call. Person, I didn't turn the phone off. Me, turn the phone off so the phone knows you've changed the SIM card, then turn it back on. Person, it's working now. Only takes a little bit of extra problem solving to figure out this issue.